much for the introduction. Let me start this afternoon by recognizing Dr. Nick, who's the founder of the Future Leader Forum, and really to express my gratitude for allowing me to deliver this address. Let me also recognize the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Pinky Kekana, my friend. I don't know if she's still here. So it's impossible to give an address about youth leadership without understanding the context and the forces that bring us together here today, right? And I thought last week's census was a good opportunity for us really to analyze the progress that we've made as a country. Sometimes I think we like to focus on moments in history. Yeah? So if the moment is stage 6 load shedding, it's anger and frustration and unhappiness, you know. I really didn't want to use a Springboks reference, but if you're watching rugby and you're winning, then the moment is elation and happiness, yeah? But sometimes it's important to track historical progress on what you're doing. And I thought the census revealed some important things, but most importantly, they revealed that this generation of young people is the most educated one that we've had in South Africa's history, yeah? Today, we produce 4 times the amount of black African graduates than we did in 1994. Many of us are beneficiaries of that system, and that has created social mobility, it's created a middle class. Many of our young people apply their trade in international spaces. Yeah? We have young entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things in the country, on the continent, around the world. Yeah? Yesterday, my membership organization, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, announced for the 11th year their 35 under 35 accountants. Yeah? Every year, the Mail and Guardian announces 200 young South Africans. And I always wonder when I see that, how every single year they find a cohort of young South Africans who are doing amazing things in their workplaces, in their communities, and even on the international stage. Yeah? But in acknowledging the positive developments that we've had, we must also acknowledge the fault lines that exist in our society. Yeah? A deliberating energy crisis brought our economy to its knees. At least load shedding is almost over. Yeah? The new crisis is in the ports and the railways, where unnecessary delays are allowing our economy to be crippled by those issues. We have the highest youth unemployment rate in the world. Rampant corruption in the private and the public sector is a stain on our democracy. And we are the most unequal country in the world. Yeah? And even if we look outside our borders, the wars in Sudan and Gaza and Ukraine, it really makes you wonder whether, as humankind, we are making progress as a society. But when I work with young people, when I look at this generation, I see a group of people who are more interested in hard work and in resolving conflict. I see young people who are willing to pursue prosperity through entrepreneurship rather than through cronyism and corruption. I see young people who are more willing and accepting of diversity, of people who don't look like them, or have the same religion like them, or who have different sexual preferences to them. Yeah? And I think that's what makes us hopeful. And many of us continue to be inspired by young people in South Africa. So I'm going to share 3 lessons on leadership. And I think the most interesting thing about leadership is that there is no single solution to leadership. Every leader follows their own journey, right? And I thought an important word was mentioned earlier is to say context. Yeah? Leading for context is important. There's a piece in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, where they reflect on leadership, and they bring in a paradox. And it's an interview with a former prisoner of war from Vietnam who survived 7 years in solitary confinement. And Jim Collins interviews him in the book, and he says, you know, what were the leadership lessons that enabled you to be able to survive 7 years, return from the war, and still be in one piece together? And he says, you know, the people who went first were the optimists, right? That's a bit shocking. Because generally the optimists live in eternal hope that things will improve for the future. But a month came and they had hope, and 2 months came and 3 months. And eventually, it was the hope that killed them, right? Because they thought they'd be home soon, and that time never came. Yeah? But equally, it was the pessimists who also didn't make it. Yeah? Because when you trap yourself in a sea of negativity, you're unable to see the solution out. And they refer to the paradox of saying it's the ability to be able to understand your current context and your current reality and be able to devise the strategies and plans to respond to that, but also have the vision and the dream to see what the future looks like and be inspired by that, yeah? While confronting the brutal facts. And I often find that in South Africa, we like to lead for the country we want, not for the one we have. Yeah? And if we don't solve for the issues that we have, we'll never build the country and the vision that we want. So I want to share 3 things on my own leadership journey that I think is important, while understanding that everybody's journey is different. And then I want to share 2 policy areas I think we can focus on to improve youth leadership in South Africa. So the first is that I think when we talk about culture and values, we talk about it from a very organizational level. Yeah? We reflect and we say things like culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that is so true, right? But we never reflect on the fact that it is society and societal values that ultimately influence organizational values. Yeah? For the longest time, you hear this rhetoric in South Africa to say, oh, but we've got such great policies, but bad implementation. Have we ever asked ourselves, why do we have bad implementation? Yeah? Maybe the culture is wrong. Yeah? Those good policies exist, but what's our willingness, what's our value systems in being able to implement them? And I think we need to ask ourselves the difficult question to say, as we've become more liberal and more democratized, have we let go of some of the value systems in society that can support our growth and development as a country? When we cheat and we steal and we lie and we hurt each other and we abuse alcohol and we commit gender-based violence, all of those things are far from us, right? They never happen in any of our households, yeah? But when we have those behaviors in society, don't we take those toxic behaviors and bring them into the workplace? And don't they manifest themselves as corruption and cronyism and bullying, creating toxic workspaces? Yeah? So we cannot separate the societal values from the organizational values that we seek to build. Yeah? And we have to return to a value system, particularly as young people, that reminds ourselves about hard work and discipline and inclusivity and professionalism, while continuing to respect the diversity of each and every individual. I hear worrying things amongst my colleagues, you know. I hear things that say, let comrades eat a little bit, you know, or don't steal all the money, just steal a little bit. We should abhor corruption. We should hate it with every fiber of our being. We cannot accept, we shouldn't be willing to accept a society where we say, let's just steal a little bit, yeah? We each need to work at killing that beast of self-interest that exists in each and every one of us. Number 2, we need to strive for a culture of continuous innovation. Yeah? And what do we mean by continuous innovation? Right? I think innovation is a difficult concept for us to be able to internalize and also externalize. Yeah? I think we think about innovation as a single individual with a great idea that's implemented by a team that then follows that great idea. Whereas more and more I see innovation as being something very different. In this new world, the job of leaders is no longer about getting others to follow them into the future. It's about inviting them to co-create that future with you. It's a process that's driven by teams composed of individuals who have expertise and experience, who are able to collaborate, experiment, and learn together. Instead of one person being at the front of the stage, leaders must learn to set and create an environment in which others are willing and able to do the hard work of innovation. This requires a high level of all of us to have emotional intelligence, courage, persistence, and create diversity of thought. Yeah? And it also needs a situation where we allow opposing views to be incorporated into creative and useful ways. The last point that I want to make about personal leadership journeys, and again, I heard this important comment in the panel before, is to say we need to create opportunity and we need to create representation. And I fully agree, right? Is to say we need more young leaders in boardrooms. We need more young leaders in the cabinet. We need more young leaders in parliament. In all spaces, we need representation of young people. But I want to make an argument that says representation alone is not enough. Yeah? It is not enough for the 1% to be represented if they do not take that representation and use it to deepen opportunities for other young people. Yeah? Opportunity changes everything. Many of us here are only here because of the opportunity our education or mentorship or anybody else did for us. And we therefore must focus on beyond representation that creates inclusive opportunity for others. Now, I want to speak about 2 youth-centered policies. Next year, South Africa goes to the polls, yeah? And of course, we know it's a very important election. But outside of who wins that election, it's important for us to think about the kind of society we want to build going into and coming out of that electoral cycle. Yeah? Now, I do believe to some extent we are creating a false dichotomy in society about work versus grants. Yeah? And very much as government, we see work and grants working complementarily to each other. With that being said, do we want to cultivate a society of young people who stand in the queue at the post office every month to collect a small amount? Or do we want a society of young people who feel that they have purpose and value and have the ability to contribute to South Africa's democracy, be active agents for change? Yeah? There is more to work than financial benefits. Work is what gives us our purpose and our value in life. Yeah? And we are denying millions of young people the opportunity to be able to contribute to that society that we seek to build. Yeah? If you look around us, there's no shortage of work to be done. There is work for young people in reinvigorating after-school programs in our public school environment, in setting up support groups which seek to curb gender-based violence and substance and alcohol abuse, in building social solidarity in their communities. Yeah? And that is why we must continue to advocate for an employment guarantee for young people in South Africa that eases the transition from earning to earning. Yeah? It is critically important that every young person has the ability to feel that they're contributing meaningfully to their society, to build their own confidence and their own self-resilience. The second is a policy framework for stronger public-private partnerships in South Africa. Now, when we say partner, I sometimes think we get it wrong. You know, if I come to you and I say, hey, let's partner about this, and all I actually want from you is your money. I'm not asking for a partnership. I'm asking to be a service provider. Yeah? Partnership is where partners bring equal share of contributions. I had a very interesting discussion at Glencore, and of course Glencore is its own controversies. But let's take the controversies out of it for 1 second. In South Africa, we sit on 80% of the world's chrome reserves. Yeah? If you know chrome, you can't make stainless steel without chrome. South Africa has a capacity to produce, I think, in excess of 5 million tons of chrome a year. We produce less than half of that. Yeah? And we have a discussion about this, and we come to the conclusion that what has detracted investment in the chrome sector is very high cost of energy, high cost of labor, which means it's far easier to ship chrome 10,000 miles across the world to be converted into stainless steel somewhere in Asia. Yeah? Now, we cannot address the unemployment crisis without being willing to work with the private sector. One of the positive things that came out of the meeting was the fact that the shifting energy policy in South Africa is allowing for many of these companies to be returned to profitability. But if we don't create the framework for employment to be supported by business, we're never going to achieve the goals that we want to. We have a vibrant and a skilled business community in South Africa, yeah? Which means young people don't need to be stuck in dead-end jobs forever. Yeah? There's very exciting work that is happening in ensuring many of the outsourced jobs that have been taken to India and Indonesia and bringing them back to South Africa. But it requires a quality youth employment subsidy, allowing the private sector the ability to hire, skill, and support millions of young people, increase our economic activity at scale. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, wow, I felt like I said that a lot here. Like, finally, in conclusion, as I depart, there was a dream that was once South Africa, right? Young people, as the program director said, are the demographic dividend. They are the ones responsible for our future. Me, I'm exiting youth. Young people here are going to be leaders for many years to come. And young people will have very difficult choices in front of them. You will have a choice about whether to continue the pact between the economic elite and the political elite that protects their own vested interests, or whether you can make South Africa a place where, if you try, you can achieve what you want. You're going to have to make difficult choices about whether we continue to educate our young people and whether we make investments to keep those young people competitive in this century. It's up to you to choose whether we are going to be at the behest of global oil prices or whether we'll invest in the renewable energy that breaks our dependence on fossil fuels and the climate crisis. It's your choice whether we'll continue to protect the vulnerable and the poor or whether we'll keep protecting our social security and safety net and our healthcare system. So as I leave, I'll ask one thing, is that young people continue to pursue success. Yeah? Don't falter, and when you make it, lift somebody else up. Because your life is richer when those around you have a shot at opportunity as well. We have to strive to widen the circle of possibility. We have to strive to forge that big vision we had of South Africa. Yeah? Like I said, there was a dream that was once this country. Let's go out and achieve it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
TM Global Media, going beyond borders.